All right. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Author Talk presented by the New York Public Library. My name is Joe. I am a YA librarian at the 53rd Street branch here in Midtown. And I have the privilege of introducing Teresa Jones, the YA librarian at the Pelham Parkway Van Nest branch. She will be rather in conversation with our special guest, Tanvi Berwah, to talk about her latest YA fantasy novel, Somewhere in the Deep. So thank you to Tanvi. And thank you to everyone in attendance or watching this recording. You can be doing a number of other things right now, but you're with us today for this virtual author event. We welcome folks of all ages, teens, adults, and educators alike to today's exciting and compelling conversation. So after our discussion, there will be some time for Q&A. I'll be monitoring the chat. So if you have a question that comes up during the conversation, please post it into the YA box, which I will tell you about on the next slide. And we will, of course, do our best to get to all of your questions. In our chat and Q&A, we do ask you to be mindful to adhere to the library's general policies and rules. Please be respectful to all attendees and panelists. And of course, as a reminder, whoa, there's the music. Hey, as a reminder, this event is being recorded, but you, the viewer, are not. So moving on to the next slide here. Before we get started, there's a few housekeeping items to review. On the slide is how to navigate Google Meet for those who are unfamiliar. To prevent any ambient noise, that you kindly silence your microphone until you're ready to speak. You can do that by putting your cursor to the bottom of the screen where you'll see multiple icons. One of the icons is a microphone icon that you can click to mute or unmute yourself. There is also a phone icon that you can use to leave the call, and a camera icon that indicates to turn on or off your camera. If you're calling in, you can mute and unmute yourself by hitting *6. Don't believe anybody here is using the phone to tune in, so we're going to just gloss over that. You can also turn on captions by clicking the button that says CC for closed captioning at the bottom of the screen. And you can raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon. So take a moment to familiarize yourself with these functions while I take the next few minutes to share some library information before starting today's program. Next slide, please. Thank you. How to get your library books. The NYPL has reopened most branch locations across the Bronx, Manhattan, and Staten Island. Aside from those undergoing improvements, we are offering full service, including general library use, seating, unlimited browsing, laptop and computer access, and so much more. So please visit our website, nypl.org, to learn more about that. And also visit the link that is about to be entered into the chat to find the NYPL branch closest to you. You can go to any open library branch and sign up for a physical library card. But if you don't feel comfortable, you can use our Simply E app, which is the gray, blue, green E. That is on the slide. It's available to download on Apple and Android for free. With your library card, you can make a request to place a book on hold before you visit a branch. And if you're using the app, you can place a digital hold for an ebook or audiobook. And great news, the New York Public Library is proud to announce a major policy shift. Since October 2021, all late fines were eliminated and all existing fines and fees and patron accounts have been cleared. You can learn more about this policy change and how everyone is getting a clean slate by visiting our website, nypl.org/goodbyefines. And I know that this is a lot of information about our library services, so if you need help navigating any or all of it, please contact Ask NYPL at 917-ASK-NYPL, or you can email gethelp@nypl.org, or you can just call your local branch during open hours. Someone there will be available to offer guidance and advice. Next slide, Teen Live and YA Author Talk events. The New York Public Library presents thought-provoking conversations, real debates, and exciting performances for teens with your favorite authors, artists, filmmakers, musicians, fashionistas, and more. Our Teen Live and YA Author Talk series reach teens culturally, artistically, inspirationally, technologically, and more with the biggest, best, and the brightest stars. Programs spotlight current cultural trends and important mainstays that inform the lives of today's teens. And next slide. Here are some more upcoming library programs if you're interested in attending. Virtual Comics Chat takes place every month, as does virtual book tasting. So those are on consecutive days, January 25th and January 26th. In addition, Volume 7 of the Library Zine is about to launch. So, to kind of have the kickoff right there, you can register at tinyurl.com/zine launch 24. It's lots of programs each week, something for everybody. So, make sure to take a look at the offerings on the website. But that's all I've got here as far as an intro. So, I'm going to turn it over to Jabrija. So, take it away.
Thank you, Joe, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Teresa Jones, and I am the young adult librarian at the Palm Parkway Van Ness branch. Not there at the moment. I'm at the Stravos Negros Foundation Library. But I have the very excited, and very extreme pleasure to welcome back once again Tanvi Berwah back to the New York Public Library, even though it is virtually, to talk about her latest YA book that just came out today, Somewhere in the Deep. It is a fantastic YA fantasy novel. So thank you again, Tanvi, for coming back to talk with us again.
I'm so excited to be here. So excited to talk to you again.
So, if you do not know the wonderful Tommy, let me give you a brief bio about her. So, Tommy Berwah is a South Asian writer who grew up wanting to touch the stars and reach back in time. She has a master's degree in English literature from the University of Delhi. Her debut YA novel, Monsters Born and Made, came out in 2022 and was published by Source Books Fire. And like I said, her second book, Somewhere in the Deep, just came out today, and you can find her at tanviberwah.com. So we have exciting things to talk about today, Tanvi. So for first up, why don't you, for those who have not had a chance to read Somewhere in the Deep, could you give us a brief synopsis of the book?
Okay, so Somewhere in the Deep is an anti capitalist, anti imperialist, dark YA fantasy about an orphan pit fighter who is desperate to escape her hostile island but is forced to join a rescue mission deep inside old mines beneath the sea that may be filled with monsters in madness. It is perfect for readers who enjoy characters like Six of Crows in Ashkafa and the monsters from The Witcher.
It's like, and for someone who does not read a lot of fantasy books, the way that it was the same how I felt reading Monsters Born and Made. Reading Somewhere in the Deep, it just makes you feel like you're there, and I feel like you do that on purpose. It's like you're down in the trenches, you're down in the caverns, like finding all these different you're finding these different monsters, and you're there, but also you're feeling the tension and this amazing world that you created that's still, even though it's a fantasy world, it's somehow connected with the reality that we live in, and that's what I just really love about both like Monsters Born and Made, and also especially with Somewhere in the Deep.
Honestly, my absolute favorite part of both these books was creating the monsters. It's, I mean, I love all things monsters. Like Jurassic Park was my gateway, and I have never really left that place. I love The Witcher for its monsters, and I'm currently watching this Korean drama Gyeongsan Creature specifically for the monster. Sorry, I'm not gonna spoil it. For which is the monster which is being used as a tool of colonialism, and I mean, of course, I also grew up in a family that surrounded me with myths and stories, and Hindu myths, Asian myths in general, like are full of fantastical creatures, and it's all very fun.
And I can see the fun in the creating of the different monsters, because I'm finding like I'm looking up some of these monsters on Google. I'm like, wait a minute, these are not real. Like, but that's how real that they are. And I think that's like the perfect segue into the next question. Like how, what gave you the idea? Like, how did you come up with these make believe monsters? Like, they're fake, but they just seem so real, and it feels like you can, when Cress is fighting these monsters, you feel like you're right there with her when she is fighting them. You just put so much realism into these make believe monsters.
I think even this was true for monsters as well. the thing about these monsters is I sit with my sibling. We talk about what scares us. We talk about, I mean, the Scorpios, the crab that was in Monsters Born and Made, this insect thing that's in somewhere in the deep, a huge insect thing, and there's a fight in the middle of it. I discuss it with them, and we all like we just sit and talk about what scares us. That has been my process for this book and the previous one. I talk to them, and we just think about what scares us and what we want to read. That's actually my process, talking to my sibling.
Because there's like a lot of like the Scorpio, and I feel like there's only like a jellyfish kind of
Yeah.
monster, and I'm scared of jellyfish. I've never. I mean, I would say I'm not. I have never really come in encounter with a jellyfish, but and I think you touched a base about like a lot of this, not about how we're predisposed of what we learned in history, that we're scared. We're either scared of something or we hate something. And Cress, she deals that with a lot, dealing with her parents' history, that we are predisposed to like be scared of jellyfish because they sting and they can really hurt. But and what I really loved about how you talked, like yes, they are monsters, but they're not really evil. They're just animals who are just protecting themselves. And I think you just put a lot of and realism and I don't know, and like integrity and empathy in it. It just like it just seems so different, and I don't see that a lot in fantasy novels. It's like you and it just made it more real to me, even though it's just like an entire make believe world. And I kind of want to thank you for that because it's like I turned away from fantasy series a lot because they just kept like with the good and the evil kind of aspect, but it's not like a very simple thing. There's like hidden meanings behind it. I'm gonna stop talking and let you and let you say something right now because I could be babbling on and on.
No, I mean, this reminded me. Obviously, these are monsters; these are non-human creatures and stuff. But at the same time, as a gender fluid person and my sibling is trans, we think about bodies and monsters a lot, and a lot of the stories that we consume have always had some kind of monstrous creatures in them. So we are also like kind of predisposed to including monsters in our stories in all kind of forms and all kind of bodies and all that body horror stuff that kind of just comes without us even thinking about it. So
Yeah, no, and you definitely can see that in both of the books. And with apart with like the beautiful, amazing book cover, Somewhere in the Deep and Monsters Born and Made. Did you have a say in the cover?
I
In
mean, I was shown drafts as they were being done, and they always wanted to they always did ask, if there was something I didn't like, if there was another direction I wanted to go in. So, I mean, obviously, authors don't really get a say in covers, but they definitely did ask, and that was wonderful. Like seeing that whole process of it going from like an idea to the final one, that was amazing.
yeah, and I can definitely say because it is just really a breathtaking type of cover. You don't see a lot of that, and it really highlights the story and the different types of animals that are
Yeah,
in the book, and it's just like really you see the creativity in it, and also you see a kind of connection between both Monsters Born and Made and Somewhere in the
yeah.
Deep. You allude to that a little bit. So to start off, like what gave you the inspiration to write Somewhere in the Deep? Because it does take place in the same universe, but the stories are you can read both books,
Yeah.
Monsters and Somewhere in the Deep, on its own. So what gave you the inspiration to write Somewhere in the Deep?
I mean, I knew from the start when I wrote the first book, Monsters Born and Made, that this is a huge world with many stories. There are 10 islands, and I wanted to write this one in particular because it's directly influenced by the events of the first book, but not in the way you'd expect, right? There are no outer plot points that you could immediately think, but the second book would not have taken place if the first wasn't already taking place in its own timeline. And thematically, since I wanted to explore more about the relationship of these people, these characters, with the land they inhabit, I think this felt like the perfect story to do so.
And also I'm gonna and we talked a little bit before we went start recording that even though it is connected, it is not a sequel to
Yeah.
Monsters Born and Made. And if people who have not had the chance to read Monsters Born and Made, you definitely need to read it because there is an amazing cliffhanger that Tanvi left us. And I definitely want to ask her, like, are you going to gift us with a sequel to, or somehow a continuation to Monsters Born and Made?
I mean, I would absolutely love to. Like, Cress and Coral are my champions, and I want them to meet and rebuild this world for the better. And it's just that Coral's emotional arc in Monsters Born and Made is complete as far as that story is concerned, which is not to say that there isn't more story. It's just that there needed to be this one to fill the gap before we can truly move forward with Coral. But yeah, I would love these two badass girls to come together.
Oh, definitely. I would love to see both of them just together fighting, like fighting the good fight, ending capitalism. We need them now. Like
Yeah,
we need them in the real, just like, toppling everything, like, and just toppling government.
truly, truly fantasy books in that sense.
Exactly. So, and you talk about Coral and you talk about Crescent, and they're both one of like they're becoming both of my favorite female book protagonists and characters. So, and I feel like they're so real to me. They feel like they're based on people in your life. So I wanted to ask, like, are there personalities and characteristics like based on anyone personally?
I mean, not really, but I will say that their neurosis is definitely based on mine. Coral has undiagnosed bipolar disorder, which is why she's as volatile emotionally. Cress has my anxiety, and a lot of the way she physically feels that anxiety comes from my personal experiences. Other than that, their fierce nature is definitely on the more aspirational side for me. Like, I mean, I would love their strength. It's more like I wish I could be them.
But and yes, I wish I could be them, but it doesn't. It's not something like what they are. It's not too high of like a pedestal. It's like I feel like everyone has like could have a coral or a crescent within them because they're not entirely perfect. They
Yeah.
have their past, their troubles, but they persevere and you can admire them and be empathetic with them and yeah, and you can also be frustrated by them because it's both like I said, Coral and Crescent do have flaws, but you wouldn't mind like having a friendship with them and being in a relationship with them and just like a very like they're really personable female characters, which I absolutely love, like for both Monsters and Somewhere in the Deep. Um, so going back to like Somewhere in the Deep, like what was your besides the monsters? Because seem like you love creating the monsters.
I
What
did.
is your, is there another aspect? Like, what is your favorite thing about writing Somewhere in the Deep?
Oh, I mean, getting to explore the cave, like I was so incredibly excited from the first idea. Like when I got it, I wanted to see this land, more of it. It sounds trite because yes, I did come up with the world, I did come up with the story. It's mine. I could like make anything up. But and although I know like a large part of its history, I know a large part of its geography that's not in the books. I don't actually know the minutiae, the details of it until I would actually sit down to write it. So it was just a whole new world for me, and I was so excited to like get down into that land and explore it.
So the cave.
Yeah,
did
all fit.
you have did you have to go? Because I would be scared of doing this. Did you have to like go? Did you go into like some caves, or was like doing Google Earth just enough to like give you an
I mean,
idea?
I'm in India. A lot of our temples are inside caves, like not that deep, but
Yeah,
definitely like within caves, within like grottos and stuff like that. So yes, I have been inside caves. And they are pretty scary even on the surface level. So yeah, but yeah, the rest of it is definitely just imagination. I would think about it, and I am terrified of claustrophobia, and I have like I cannot stand the dark. So I took everything and just expanded it.
I felt the claustrophobia like when they were in the caves. Like, how are they doing this? Because so in Liberty, New Jersey, there is a science museum called the Liberty Science Center.
Yeah.
And what they had, I don't think they have it. I think they closed it down. Is what they call like a touch tunnel.
Oh my god.
So yeah, it's it is very scary as I'm saying it. So it's a pitch black tunnel. You can't see anything. There's no like lights on the floor. You have to go by touch. And the first time I went in there, I freaked out. So they do have cameras in there. So if they see if someone is freaking out, there is like an emergency exit door, and they can escort you out. That was my first try. I was like, I need to get out. You need like this isn't working.
Yeah.
But
My anxiety wouldn't let me.
I know I was like freaking out because then there was like a little dip. I was like, oh my God, I'm falling. I'm falling. And it was just like like a minor dip. And I thought it was falling. But I was determined the second time I went to the museum, I was like, I'm going to complete it. And I crushed my friend's hand. I was like, I'm going to complete it. You're coming with me. So, and I did, thankfully. I made it out, yes. And reading reading those scenes in the tunnels, I'm like, this brings me back because it's like I would not be able to do that. And where Cress is like, she feels like at every corner, it's like someone's watching us, like someone's after us, and I would have left
Yeah.
them down there to be like, no, you guys are good. I'll just continue working in the mines. I'm fine. So that's my little segue into
I mean, having like that idea of a fantasy, this ancient civilization, that definitely helped because I am a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. And I mean, if you've seen the movies, I'm sure people have seen it. You will definitely find some kind of like similarities between the book, there are certain scenes, and Lord of the Rings. So, I mean, instead of the elves, I kind of latched onto the dwarves from the movies. And then I was obsessed with finding out about their lore, the whole jewels and the whole cities and all that stuff. I mean, I also love the Rings of Power show. I know people hate it. I don't. I love it specifically because we get to see the dwarves. So I did keep that idea in my head that this place was once something like that. So that kind of made it easier.
I well, I have friends who already know this, and it is a popular opinion. I did not like Lord of the Rings. I fell asleep. I was upset. It's like I'm tried to read the book, could not get into it. Tried to watch the first movie. I was like, they haven't destroyed the ring. Okay, there's two more movies of this. I can't do this. So
I mean, I read the books just to sound intellectual. Like, I was like, yes, we will power through 1,000 pages just because I want to like prove something to someone. I'm going to read these books. And then I kind of just, I did really like the movies. And then slowly I just came around to it. I love Lord of the Rings now. I didn't in my teens when I actually read it, but yeah.
I know. I feel. Yeah. People will say like, oh, maybe if you read it now, you'll like it. I'm like,
Yeah,
no.
I mean,
I am fine with you keep doing like different retelling. Well, not retelling because not trying to get you into the trouble with the
everybody's waiting for like 2050 when these books go on public domain. We'll see
yeah.
what happens then.
Exactly. So I'm not trying to get you in trouble with the Tolkien estate. No, not retelling. Inspired. Inspired by Lord of the Rings. But it seems like it definitely is. Like the
Yeah.
fantasy genre is like it's one of your favorite things to read. Like what and you probably talked about this like the last time that we had a discussion, but if you could mention again, like why did you gravitate towards the fantasy genre? What is it about that makes you like something that you would not only read but also continuously write and write stories in?
I'm sorry. I didn't catch that. Could you like repeat it?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. I said like, what makes it like about the fantasy genre that it's something that you continuously
Yeah, okay.
either read or write stories in?
I mean, yeah, I've always talked about how fantasy for me has always been a way to look at things that are uncomfortable, that are not easy to confront, because it's not easy to look at difficult truths about yourself, about the world. So fantasy becomes fun if you want. It's definitely fun, but I think it's a very safe vantage to look at the world at large, and especially middle grade and YA fantasy. It's a great way to introduce kids and teens to ideas that they can expand on, then they can go on to learn more about. And fantasy has done a great job that way for me. Like I, as a kid, I am not learning about the realities of oppressions my community has gone through or other people are going through. It has always been about fantasy. I read fantasy books. You read more about it, and hopefully you will come to a point when you can put that knowledge from the fantasy book to context in the real world and actually get to know something about it without having to put yourself in that difficult position. I think that's very important for a lot of, especially for BIPOC kids and queer kids. We're living a daily life, and it's not always as easy to have to look at those things in literature as well. So I think fantasy is a good gateway that way.
Yeah, definitely. Even for someone who's not always been a big fantasy reader, I am starting to see now that reading fantasy books, it is a great gateway and gives definitely BIPOC and queer kids a chance to not only see themselves in it, because I am seeing like amazing, great books with diverse kids and that I did not see when I was growing up, and probably
Yeah.
that is why I fell out of love with the fantasy genre. And I feel like now is like a great time we're seeing that these amazing books where they not only see themselves but deal with tough and tough but necessary topics that need to be discussed that they probably were not able to speak out on, and they can and it can be and discussed and interpreted in a different way. And I feel like not only your books but like I don't know if you've heard of Sangu Mandana. She wrote
Yes. Yeah.
Kiki Kalira. I love Kiki Kalira. I hope she comes up with a third one. Um, because she's a young girl who's like she draws these amazing
Yeah.
books, but she deals with her anxiety. And for a kid who myself, who continues to deal with anxiety and dealt with anxiety when I was a kid, I would have loved a story like that because I did that when I was a kid. I would draw and write stuff to deal with my anxiety, and it just like seeing those stories starting to come out is just like a great thing to see right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what fantasy does. That's one of the reasons we write it. We love reading it. It's definitely one of the things that it does for us.
Yeah, no, definitely. Um, so let's start like with some fun questions. So like what would you say is your? I think someone say, oh, Evian, he actually took one of my questions, and I can actually and I can say it. So Evian asked before she left, what is your favorite monster in the book?
In Somewhere in the Deep, I think it's the dragon because it's like it's such a mythical thing that's been. Is that a spoiler? I think it might be a spoiler, but yeah, there is a dragon, and like that scene of it mm, doing its thing, doing what it did. That was amazing to write. But at the same time, there's this one scene in the middle of the book that I first envisioned when I was like doing my outline and when I was sending it to my editor. I am so glad got to keep that scene as is from that very first outline. That fight in the middle. Where one character dies, I loved that scene. I loved writing it. It was so gory. It was so ew. I don't know why I wrote that, but it was amazing. I loved writing it.
I feel like if it's gory and you're cringing, but it seems like you put all of your power into it, then that has to be your favorite scene. If
Yeah.
it's like very gory and you're very descriptive, like, okay, this is where I'm putting my heart in. It's like, yes, I'm cringing, but it's necessary to die, like to go into that. Um, so if you could take an animal, a real life animal, and turn it into, and I feel like you've done this like with most of the animals, but there's probably an animal that we have not thought of, and turn it into one of your fantasy monsters. Like, which animal would you choose?
It would be a zebra. Zebras are kind of weird. Like when you think about it, what's that? What's going on with them? I don't know. I would do something with them. And kangaroos. I mean, kangaroos don't even like need to be made into monsters. Have you seen their claws? Have you seen their legs? Oh my god, they are. That's insanity. What kind of creatures are they? I want to put them in the book so bad.
Their legs are so powerful, and they're just like, I don't. And then they have the pouch, and like, and you see the baby popping out. Like, you want to say, oh, but then you're saying, like, ew, how is that possible?
I saw this one video where this kangaroo was like standing in front of a glass wall in a house, and he was just like staring. Sorry, and he was just staring at the person inside, and like its claws were out, and it's the scariest thing I have ever seen.
I do. I am actually surprised you didn't say cat.
Yeah, I mean,
Cats are the kitty monsters as well, but it would be interesting to see a fantasy kind of cat monster.
if Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix had a episode with that cat, that was wild. That was
I have to see it. I have not. So you're the second author has told me that I should watch The Fall of the House of Usher. So I definitely have, because I love the classic story. I know it's not based. It's totally different, but I mean, I saw the trailer. I was like, this seems really cool. I have to definitely see it. Like, it's up right up my alley with horror and stuff. But now you're saying that there's a cat scene.
there's a whole episode that's focused on a cat being an absolute demon. It's amazing.
Oh my god. Okay.
Like, I mean, an actual demon. I'm not kidding. Just be prepared for it.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm definitely prepared. I will message you like I was not prepared. I try to be prepared, but and then Avian's second question: does the monster on the cover play a big role in the book, or is it just representative of all the monsters in the book?
It's definitely representative. I think the physical anatomy of it is inspired by by the very first monster that we see in the book, but it's obviously not in the cave, so it's a whole representation of all the monsters against that cave background.
Okay. I and I just it seems like is this like representative of like the scorpion like
Yep.
because I could see yeah definitely okay I could see the tail and the hook. I was like yes like that's a Scorpio like it's a scorpion. I have to yeah I have to
Yeah, but
definitely
it isn't a Scorpio. It's like,
I know we don't want to give too much away because we want people want the people to read like have like their um the one their imagination too and you write like descriptive like ideas of the monsters and it just like comes up with like a different imagination and seeing it on the cover it matches like with what you think of so it's a the cover design they did a fantastic job.
I mean, people ask me all the time what a certain monster looks like. And I think it's scarier if you just kind of let your imagination run.
I do, and I feel and I think that's like what probably Michael Crichton was doing with Jurassic Park because he wasn't
Yeah.
like bogged down with with people like saying like oh he should probably go into the science more of and he did enough but I feel like the idea is like no it's humans playing God
Hmm.
and doing something and that's the
I
scary
mean,
part.
Jurassic Park is perfect. Like, I will not hear a word against it.
You will not hear. I am in the process of still reading the book because I have never read the book. I was shamed by another author
Oh
who,
my God.
yeah,
What?
funny shame. She was like, "You need to read Jurassic Park," because I love the movie, and like the couple of sequels, a, a few, but the first one, the original, that is always the best. But you will never hear a bad word about Jurassic Park. That is my line too. It's like no, Jurassic Park is perfect. So we talk about like your different hobbies. Clearly, Jurassic Park is your love of Jurassic Park is one of them. Um, but what other things do you like to do when you are not writing?
Earlier I probably would have said watching TV, which is like just the best thing we invented. But it's now, I think, wandering around the city with my sibling. We moved like towards the outer area of the city now, and are just discovering that there's a lot to see in the actual city when we should have gone to places that when we were actually living there. But now I just love just roaming around in bookstores, roaming around in shops, eateries, whatever. I love doing that.
That is my favorite thing to do too. Um, especially bookstores. And
Yeah.
Whitney just joined in, and she's probably like, "Yes, definitely bookstores." I
I
can't.
love eavesdropping on people talking about books in bookstores. Like, I just stand there, I just listen to them talking about all these books. It's amazing.
When a group of my friends, we did that one time. We were in a bookstore and we were just talking, and a customer, they were listening to us, and they were like, "We love listening to you guys. You guys should have a podcast." And we all looked at each other, like, "Should we?" Because it was just we were just talking randomly about different books and all the books that we're seeing in the table. So I can definitely, I that is one of my favorite things to do as well. Just walking around, even if I don't buy anything, most of the
Yeah,
time, and
it's
I do.
fun.
It is fun though. It is fun. Definitely going to an indie bookstore. Um, so for any of our audience members who are out there, if you have any questions for Tanvi, please enter them into the chat. So, so we are in 2024, and I I thought of this question last night, and you could say like, oh, I don't have any, because usually I don't even think about having any. Like, this is the new year of 2024, and a lot of people create New Year's resolutions. So I thought to ask, like, oh, do you have any New Year's resolutions for this year? If you would like to share, if you don't, that's perfectly fine.
I don't know if I do resolutions exactly. It's more of a guideline. I basically want to rebuild my writing habits from before I was published, writing for myself again rather than trends and markets. And I feel like this is nothing special because most writers you'll talk to these days are thinking about this, talking about this. So we're all doing the same thing.
No, I have seen a lot of that too. A lot of writers are saying that they're just writing for themselves instead of just going with the trends. And
Yeah.
please do. I mean, there's so many books that are going with the trends. Like, that's great, but I'd love
I
to
mean,
see
they're
more.
enjoyable at first, but then
Right? Yeah. It's like so like people are like saying like, oh, if a mystery comes out, and it's like, oh, this is just like Knives Out. And I'm like, okay, great. I could just watch Knives Out, like if I want to read something like that. So it's like I want something different and new, and not just something that. I mean, it's good to say if it's to get people to read it, but you just
yeah.
want something like different, and you want somewhere where there's like a lot of the author's creativity, and they really pour themselves. You can really tell when an author really pours themselves into their work. That's when you sense like the differences in the uniqueness of the work, and you really could tell in that.
I think we
Uh,
really need like space for both these things because, yeah, something could be trendy, but someone writing it would genuinely love it. So it's like both of these things can coexist, right? Writers should be allowed to write what they want, and we need to like create all niches, all kind of spaces for them. And I think that's what works best.
yeah, because there are books that you wouldn't think you were scared to put out
Yeah.
because I don't think there's a market for it. Like, you may be surprised. There might be that reader who they're like, this was amazing. This is just what I was looking for. And it does take time. It's like you're not going to be. They try to compare like an overnight success with, and I'm mentioning it because I see it in the background, the Hunger Games,
Yeah.
and, or a Harry Potter, or like we were talking about before we went online, Sarah J. Moss. But
Yeah.
you just have that, like, like you find that reader, and if you reach the one or two readers, I feel like you did your job.
Yeah.
You
It's
did
an
good.
amazing, I mean, it's an amazing feeling when, even one person saying that they connected with something that you wrote, it's an amazing feeling. Like nothing compares to it.
Yeah, and I always try to find like those the like, and I think that's what made me came across Monsters Born and Made, because it was different. It was unique, and I never read anything like this before. It was not something that I've seen before, and I was like, okay, I definitely I need to reach out to Source Books. Like, can you get me her? I'm like,
Thank you so much. That's so nice to hear.
yeah, you're welcome. They're like, yeah, sure. So, w- um, so with Summer in the Deep, are there any other books that you would recommend other than reading Monsters Born and Made, that our readers should pick up after finishing Somewhere in the Deep?
I think books by Andrew Joseph White, and those are amazing dystopian books. They're definitely on the horror side of it, but yeah, those are amazing books. And for like right, why we're sticking to YA, right?
Yeah.
A study in drowning by Ava Reid. It just came out. It's also an amazing book. It's about exploring trauma, exploring abuse, and it is such a wonderful story. I loved it. And I can recommend like books that are coming out. Camila Cole's book is coming out, and Bethany Baptist's book is coming out. I am so it's such an amazing book. I read it, like I got the ARC, and I have read it twice now. I love her prose. It's amazing.
Okay. All right. I like see so many. I follow her on X, and I've seen many posts about it and gotten many
Yeah,
emails from
it's
Facebook.
like Camila's book is coming out next week, like on 16th.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Okay. So I got the poison we drink. All right. That's
Yeah.
that's definitely on my list to read. Okay. Because I've read the plot and I was like, this seems really good. This is like really interesting to read. So okay. So you vouch for it. That is good enough for me. So, do you have any upcoming projects that you are allowed to talk to us about?
I'm drafting my next book, so I don't think I can share anything yet.
It's okay.
Sad.
But I'm glad to see that there's a next book coming out, so we can be
I'm
happy about that.
let's all cross our fingers.
You just let me know who I have to talk to at Source Books, and I got you. So, if there are no other questions from our audience members, I do have one final question for you. So, as librarians, we have to do what is called a book talk, not book talk on TikTok.
Yeah.
A short commercial pitch to encourage our patrons to go and check out the books that are in our library collection. So now we're going to turn the tables onto you, and we're going to ask you to do a 1 minute like commercial pitch for Somewhere in the Deep to encourage our readers and people who are watching now and also watch this recording later on to go out and check the book out in our collection. So whenever you are ready, you can go ahead.
Okay. So, Somewhere in the Deep is a South Asian inspired anti capitalist, anti imperialist YA fantasy, which is about an orphaned pit fighter desperate to escape her hostile island, but is forced to join a rescue mission deep inside old mines beneath the sea that may be filled with monsters and madness. It is perfect for fans of strong female characters like Six of Crows' Inash Kaffa, The Witcher Ciri of Sintra, and Throat of Glass's Selena Sandrothian. It is an action adventure. It is inspired by cosmic horror. It is inspired by Dante's rendition of Hell in Lord of the Rings. I think it has everything something for every reader. And I hope it will be a perfect addition on kids and teens shelves.
Yay! That's
I
true.
messed that up.
No, you did wonderful. And I forget, yes, Dante's Inferno. I have to reread that. I the last time I read that was in college.
Yeah, I mean, it can be. I mean, I read it in like my master's, so I had to read it. It helps when you read it alongside memes and jokes, then you like kind of you can just laugh at it. That man was insane.
Yeah, I did not get a chance. I had to read it for English class for undergrad, and yeah, there was not much to laugh. I was like, oh my god, this is it's long, beautiful, but oh my god.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tom.
No, I mean, thank you for having me. I love talking to you. I love talking to you about with Monsters Monmade and this one as well. It's so fun talking to you, seriously.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so fun talking with you too. Oh, okay, everyone. So you heard it here. Thank you, Tanvi. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us. So you heard all the great books, both of the great books that Tanvi has written. Her debut novel, Monsters Born and Made. It is available in our collection in ebook, print, and in audiobook format. Somewhere in the Deep, it was just launched today. So this is going to be a while to reach our library collection, but please keep a lookout. It is an amazing, great fantasy novel. Right after Monsters Born and Made is connected, but it is a book that can be read on your own. If you're a fan of the fantasy genre, this is a definitely must read for those kinds of fans. I'm going to go to the next slide. Sorry. Okay, and please join us next month. We will be talking with Jade Lapite. She will be talking about her YA Afro, another fantasy debut novel, Goddess Crown. This will be happening next month, Thursday, February 15th at 3 p.m. So the registration link just opened today, so make sure to sign up. Okay, and so thank you so much, Tanvi, for coming us from India. I know it's very early there, and thank you so much for staying up with us. And also for those, everyone who has attended, I did say that Somewhere in the Deep is it will take a while to enter into our branch collection, but if you are in the Van Ness Library area in the Bronx, we will be giving away free copies of Somewhere in the Deep. So you'll be able to pick up a copy today. Well, not today, in a couple of weeks. Make sure just to give us a call and ask if the copies are in. Also, take the time to follow Tombi on social media. She is on Instagram, on X, formerly known as Twitter. I can't say that. It's hard to say. And also follow Tommy on the website, and she's also on Threads as well. That's made by Instagram. And also take the time to follow us on social media. Pelham Parkway Van Ness is on both Facebook and on Instagram. So make sure to follow us so you get to see more amazing programs that you'll be able to see at our branches. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Tombi, and hopefully everyone enjoys the rest of their afternoon.